Hey, Matt Handy, welcome to Soberness.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, I'm a fan of your show, so it's an honor to have you here.
Awesome. I really appreciate that.
All right, so here's how these go. It's 10 minutes, tip to tail. So I'm going to start the stopwatch. I always feel funny saying starting the stopwatch, start and stop at the same time. But anywho,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing. I'm starting the stopwatch. It's 10 minutes, and you are just going to go and tell us your tale, okay?
All right.
Bam, action.
Okay. So I'm going to fit 20 years into 10 minutes right now. Okay.
I'm
So
ready.
I'm the oldest of 10 kids and I
Woo.
was raised in San Diego. Right. And
Okay.
so I started doing drugs at a really young age. And by the time I was 16, there was like 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old. There was like a bunch of kids at home. And I'd been kicked out of school. I went to an accelerated program and ended up graduating like really fast. And so I was just sitting at home doing drugs. My parents were like, you got to go. So I think what they meant to do is like kind of try to scare me into like doing the right thing, and it just didn't work. And so from there, I, you know, fell into full blown heroin addiction out on my own, doing the whole deal. Ended up in prison at 19. Ended up married with a kid on the way and in prison at 19.
That's a
So
big year, eh?
yeah, yeah. And so then uh, I get out of prison. By the time I'm 22, I've lost the marriage, been alienated from my family again, lost the kid, heading back to prison, and now I'm just completely cut off. Um, the the decision to just completely cut all ties with my family, it was mutual. They didn't want me around, but also I understood. I'd watch it happen with an uncle of mine where he kind of burned those bridges and burned them and burned them and burned them. And so he will never be welcome back. And so I knew that that was the direction that I was going. So when I left, I mean, I recently got social media. I recently got a Facebook and an Instagram and a TikTok, all to really go along with the podcast. But my last social media account was a MySpace.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
and I used to tell people that it was the government and all this stuff. But the reality was, I didn't want my family to find me, right? And so,
Because you're so
um,
angry that they had kind of disowned you?
no, I didn't want to burn the bridge because I wanted to be able to come back when I was ready. So,
Very
um,
wise.
there was, I that was the only time that I had taken somebody else's experience and like learned from it, right? And so they say that smart people learn from their mistakes, wise people learn from others. Well, historically, I was neither. Um, and so that was the one time that I took somebody's experience with what I was about to go through and like really kind of thought through what was going on. So now I'm 22, headed back to prison, got caught selling. I sold drugs to cops and like big old mess. There was like a big investigation going on in San Diego at the time, and I got swept up in all that. And
My dude.
yeah, so I sold to an undercover cop 3 times. It was a quarter pound, and then a pound. And they arrested me, and it was part of this big old deal. Anyway, so headed back to prison, and that's where things really accelerated. My first prison term, I had a ton of fun. It wasn't a deterrent. It did the exact opposite of what it should do. My second prison term was where it kind of got real. Went to a higher level. It wasn't fun. There was some crazy stuff going on. And that's where I was like, okay, prison really isn't for me. And so kind of got out of that, a little bit of the mindset, but obviously through all that led to gangs, led to the lifestyle. But I get out and I go to treatment for the second time eventually. So I get out, hit the ground running, realize really quick this I knew exactly where I was heading back to. So I went to the Salvation Army, did a 7-month program there. And that kind of directed me that gave me like a decent idea of what recovery should look like. Once again, knew I wasn't ready, so kind of made that commitment to like not come back and try this until I was ready, and went out for 10 years. At the tail end of that, I was smoking everything and putting everything in a needle that could possibly be put in a needle or on foil. I was doing it, and
Why?
that was just where it evolved to. So I'm a heroin addict. I tacked on a couple other things slowly, like I tapped on the meth, and the Xanax and like the kind of stuff that typically goes along with long-term heroin use. But then I started mixing the PCP with it and like every other thing that I could get my hands on. And that was like the tail end of my using experience was I fell out of love with the drugs. It stopped working and I was desperately looking for a way out. And now that I look back on it, I was really trying to have a conversation with God, but I would constantly tell myself, if I ever get out of this, I'll never look back. And I always liken it to an abusive marriage. I had a really long honeymoon phase, and then I fell into an abuse cycle, and then I fell out of love and went through that entire divorce cycle where I couldn't get out of it. I kept wanting to go, but I couldn't. I kept going back to it. There was never like any real attempt at sobriety because I'm strung out on heroin, and by that time for almost a decade. So I just didn't know what to do, right? And so here I am. This is November of 2020. I find out my girlfriend at the time is pregnant, and I start to spin out of control. Like, you thought I was out of control before. I went off the rails. So she breaks up with me and says, "You're dangerous. You're going to get me killed. You're going to get me killed. This baby's going to, like, I don't know what to do." She's actively using. We're homeless, living under a bridge in San Diego. And stuff like really flies off the rail. I end up robbing a bank, and a bunch of things transpire in a very short amount of time. Anyway, I get arrested on unrelated charges, and because I gave the cops such a I knew this thing was out there and I was gonna get booked for it, so I tried my hardest to not get arrested that day. And up until that point, this was COVID era, I found, like, these little loopholes where I would tell them that I, like, swallowed I got arrested between March of 2020 and that December. I'd been arrested twice a month that entire time. And so just getting arrested, racking up charges, getting caught selling drugs, like, just doing crazy stuff, going to Mexico, bringing drugs across, like, the whole 9, right? And,
Sorry, hold
so
on. I just need to pause for a second. You you rob a bank, but they let you out?
no. So I get arrested on unrelated charges, and I'm giving this cop such a hard time. So he's looking through whatever he's looking through. I found all this out later on the FBI website. This is all on their website. Yeah, he reported to the feds, "Hey, I think I arrested your guy yesterday." And they came and booked me and interviewed me and all that stuff. So, bam, now I'm sitting in jail. And originally, it was a residential burglary and a bunch of possession for sales and possession of weapons and stuff like that. So I was like, "Okay, I'm probably going away for a few years." Now the feds come, and I look at my charges. I have 17 felonies listed. I told the cops that I had a bomb. I mean, I told the bank that I had a bomb and I was gonna kill everybody in the whole 9, right? And it was like, so now I have 17 felonies. I go to my first court date, like 2 weeks later because of COVID, and they don't give you a max exposure there because it's a felony. And then I go to the next one like a month later, and my max exposure's like 50 something years, right?
Mm.
I go to my next court date, and the deal is 33 years. That's what they're offering me. So they're offering me 33 years, and they're telling me basically, like, if you want a better deal, go to trial. So for 6 months, that was the deal. The deal is 33, deal is 33, deal is 33. Anyway, ended up switching attorneys, not of my own accord. Obviously, I have a public defender, but I ended up switching attorneys for whatever reason. And the very first meeting with her, she goes, I'll never forget her name. I don't know if I should say it here, but um, she tells me, "Look, I have a really good relationship with the DA on this case. Give me something realistic that I can bring to him, and I'll do my best." So I told him, I was like, "Give me a 2-year residential program. I'll take 2 strikes. You can suspend a strike and suspend a bunch of years." And I told him, 10 years. I'll take 2 strikes, and you can suspend a strike. And then the caveat to that would be, if I mess this up, you can give me my 3rd strike, and I'll take whatever's off the top, and then you can try to strike me out and give me the 25 to life, right? So I'm like, I will do anything at this point to get out. So I had a friend back in the day. He beat 2 murders by going to this program. And so he always told me, like, if your back's ever really against the wall, go to this program and you can probably make that work. So I start, the first time they tell me 33 years, I start writing these programs immediately. Well, this is COVID era. I'm the very first person that they come to the jails to interview after they allowed him to come back in, right? So I
Mm.
get accepted. I get accepted into this program. So anyway, I get accepted, and then I have to present that to the courts and say, "Look, I got accepted, da 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 da." So they accepted the deal. The only thing they wanted different was they wanted me to be in a residential for 3 years, right? So
Great. Whatever.
I'll take it. I'll sign right now, right? Sign the deal. And that really started on my like the trajectory that I'm on today really started in those courtrooms. And the judge basically told me, he was like, in a way more eloquent way, told me, if you don't fix your life.
Well, I didn't know there was bank robbery involved, so I'm gonna waive the 10 minutes. Continue.
Okay, he goes, look, you're either gonna get your life together, or I'm gonna lock you up for the rest of your life. And so I was like, okay. And he goes, and I've sent hundreds of people to this program. I don't know many that have succeeded. I was like, whatever, dude. I am making it. I don't give an F, right? It's like, okay. So I get to the program. The program is crazy, to say the least, right? But I'm like, dude, I've got all this stuff over my head. If I mess this up, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison. Keep in mind, I have this baby on the way. This will be the second birth that I had missed. Same exact circumstances, right? And I was like, okay, I don't care. And keep in mind, like, I had years now of that negotiation with myself where I told myself, like, if I get out of this, I'll never look back. So a lot of self-searching, a lot of really hard conversations, and a lot of really, really meaningful introspection around, like, what am I gonna do? Like, am I gonna make this work? Or am I just gonna fuck the rest of my life off and like be one of those people that wasted the potential? So you fast forward a little bit, I ended up graduating the program. And through that process, got reunited with my family. And so I ended up I moved back to San Diego when I'm done. They'd all moved to Texas like 6 or 7 years before that, right? And so I had no clue what was going on with them. So, I I married my girlfriend at the time, who's my baby's mother, and so now we have another baby that's gonna be born in less than a month.
Oh, is she
Um,
clean?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, she's been clean, she stayed clean. So, this is where my last relapse comes from. About 3.5 years into my sobriety, I get all this off my back, right? I'm not on probation anymore. I'm out of the woods, right? I come to Texas and I start to spiral, right? And I ended up relapsing, and I relapsed for a couple weeks. But through that process, I it was the most pivotal, most meaningful moments of my life where hold on, where I understood like what I wanted, and I knew what I didn't want to do anymore, right? And so yeah, I relapsed. It was so April 14th of last year is my sobriety date, and I went to treatment, but a bunch of stuff happened between getting found out and going to treatment, which was only a few days. That uncle that I was talking about, he molested me when I was a kid, right? And my mom kind of put two and two together, and this was like the first opportunity for them to like confront me about this. I had relapsed, I had all this sobriety. They're like, I'm doing really well and all this stuff. And she goes, look, it's her, my dad, and my brother, and they sat me down and they were like, did this happen or did this not happen? And so that was the first time in my life that I admitted that it happened. Right. And so now I've got a purpose for treatment. Right now, I'm like, I'm going to go to treatment. I'm going to deal with this. So I go to treatment. I have a really good experience. I immediately get pointed in the direction of a really good therapist. And I went to therapy twice a week for months. And then I went to once a week. And then I went to once every 2 weeks. And now I see her once a month. But all of since I got out of treatment till now, the direction that I was pointed into and the things that like have happened to me since then, I wouldn't take it back ever, right? That needed to happen. And so now I have a treatment center, I have my podcast, we have our new daughter that's about to be born. And so yeah, I unfortunately I relapsed. But fortunately I relapsed, right? It's a massive part of my story and I don't regret it. But I'm not advocating for anybody to, like, try that. It's still terrible, but it needed to happen for me. And so, yeah, that's my story in a nutshell.
Do you think you were using so hard and heavy all those years using at what had happened to you as a child?
So, one of the amazing things that we figured out, right? I got my mental health diagnosis. We got all that squared away. I did some really intense therapy around this. And one of the things that was really, really, really relieving as a result of that was my therapist and I have a firm understanding that I wasn't using around that. I was using because I was choosing to, right? Yeah, there's trauma. Yeah, there's like ramifications, and there was some years where I might have been using because of it, but the reality was that was the path that I chose, right? And another reality that I've had around this is if I have to point to something to say that's why I was using, there's a high likelihood that I'll be able to do it again. And so taking accountability for myself, redefining words. I don't use words like triggers and cravings for myself because I've always pointed at them as an excuse. And so I've fully taken accountability for me and my thoughts and my actions. And so it just, it isn't a normal story, right? Most people point at their trauma and say, this is what happened. That's not my story. And so, in order for me to do what I do and continue on the path that I'm on, I had to take full accountability for it.
That's really interesting. It it sounds like you're saying you chose to be an addict
Yeah, I'm almost positive I did.
because you enjoyed being intoxicated.
No, because so there's many things that contribute to it, right? The bottom line is the exposure, the romancing the stone, and then also I had very little oversight as far as I was raised in a really religious situation, and I always understood because I was molested so young, like I had this divergence of thought, right? Where I understood as long as I do what I have to do here, I can do whatever I want. Well, what I wanted to do, so I have this little short story. When I'm a little kid, my I have uncles that are drug addicts, right? And when I was a very young child, I walked into the bathroom and my uncle was shooting up in the bathroom. He's all, "Get out, get out, get out, shut the door." So I walked in and shut the door. And I mean, I'm younger than 10. I was probably around 8, maybe younger than that, right? And from that moment on, I knew that there would be a day that I did that. So, there was a lot of exposure, there was a lot of things that contributed to it, but, I mean, my story is not unique, I don't think. I think there are other people out there that this is really what they I mean, not any you ask any kid, like, "What do you wanna do?" None of them say, "I wanna be a drug addict." But there was a lot of me that really wanted whatever that meant.
When you know, you know. I
Yeah,
knew I was
true.
going to be an alcoholic and I knew I was going to have to get sober. I knew it before I
Yeah.
ever even had a drink.
I
I
knew I
knew
would
it.
have to get sober. I
Yeah,
knew that.
totally same. Same. And yet we still went down the road, you know.
Yeah.
We weren't wise or smart enough to say, "Oh, that looks like it sucks. Let me just cut." No, it was like, "I can't wait. I
Yeah,
cannot wait to get into that,
I
even though
ran
I
to
know
it.
where it's going to end." Yeah,
Yeah, I
same.
ran to it, and ultimately, like, I have dealt with every consequence, right? Like, maybe there's some that I haven't, but, like, the average heroin addict, jails, institutions, ODs, loss of marriages, loss of kids, alienation from society,
Check, check,
alienation,
check, check.
all that, right? Like, none of that was enough. Every
Check.
consequence in the world wouldn't have been enough. I had to run that to its logical end. I had to fall out of love with it in order for me to sit where I'm sitting today.
You said you have a treatment center. You're
I
starting a
do.
treatment center?
No, I have a treatment center
Have started?
actively serving
Okay.
clients.
And is it inpatient, outpatient?
So we are out of network IOP. We are about to be in network, and we are in the process of buying a 148 bed residential facility.
Damn. So
Yeah,
how are you dealing with licensing and funding and all this stuff?
one step at a time. Funding. So licensing, I'm dealing with all the licensing. I have a really, really cool. He ended up being a friend, but I have really good guidance on that. He's opened treatment centers in every state. He's actually opening a treatment center in Israel next summer. So I have a really good consultant. And then the family that I left was a very different family than what I came back to. My whole life growing up until, from childhood until I was 13, my dad was grinding through school and graduated through law school and top of his class and all that. And so, additionally, when he graduated law school, he had 8 kids, right? And so I watched him grind through that, and then from the time that I left to the time that I came back was a good amount of time, and things have significantly changed as far as their station in life. And so, I'm part. So I own assisted living homes with my brothers, and then when I came up with this idea, that company was going to start it, and so my dad was like, "Build a deck, pitch it to me, and if I believe in it, then I'll fund it, right? Like I'll help you do this." And when he saw the pro forma, he was like, "Before we move forward at all, I will not give you guys a dime unless you make me a full partner." So, and since then, I tell people all the time, I'm in the backseat of my own life right now. God is 100% directing all this because as long as I don't mess things up royally, you know what I mean? Um, this is all happening to me. Like I haven't had a friction point that wasn't easily worked through since the very beginning of this.
Wow. That's amazing. And why do you think that is? Why do you think this is happening for you?
So I ultimately, I think it's happening to me, right? And I think that this is just it could have been anybody else, right? This was just supposed to happen. The timing and then like our medical director, like the way that things are coming together, and the people that are getting involved as far as the staffing and like Dr. Shaw is so he's the only neurologist and addiction medicine specialist in the country. And so the lens that he looks through addiction at is a little different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we are proposing that we have found a biological component to chronic relapse. And so just the way that everything is coming together, I really think that it could have been anybody else. I was just doing the right thing at the right time.
Hey, man, I'm so happy for you. I'm really happy that you have your family back.
Me too.
That's a big deal.
It is.
And you seems like you've really handled this the right way. So I'm thrilled for you. I'm thrilled for the people you're going to serve. Happy for your parents.
Me too.
And I hope you'll keep us posted on your progress.
I definitely will. And I appreciate you checking out the channel.
All right, man. Good. Take care.
Okay, thank you.